Great. So what is going to happen today? What we are going to do is two things. The first one, we have a big celebration, a big announcement. Today, this is the opportunity for Boundaryless, the company I represent, to share our new Trio Toolkit. So we'll talk a little bit about that, what it means, why we're using it for. And together with us today, we have our friends and colleagues from Higher China attending. So all of this has been done and has been possible thanks to Higher, actually done in collaboration and learning from Higher. The second focus, the largest focus in terms of time and importance, is having a conversation with 4 enterprises that are actually doing it. So it won't be just me talking about the RenDanHeYi. Actually, we're going to have 4 very different companies from 3 continents openly sharing their own experiences, their thinking, their expectations, their lessons learned, and you will have the opportunity to ask them questions. So I will get started with my own questions, but the idea is to open the floor and to leave you the opportunity to interact with them. So this is really a rare, I think, chance to get into the reality of the RenDanHeYi in places different than China. So prepare all of your questions, because I would like to leave you the space to pose those questions. So let me maybe just start by welcoming our speakers for today, and then I will take the floor back and share a bit about the toolkit. So as you can see from our slide, today together with us we have Andreas Olmer, CEO at MAQE. MAQE is in Thailand. Welcome, Andreas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us. And we have Antonio Boadas from GE Appliances in the US, actually higher. Antonio, welcome.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Antonio was complaining that he doesn't have a right espresso to wake up at 8 a.m. So we really thank him for being with us today.
Rightly
then
so.
we have, thank you so much, Antonio. And then we have Arianna Cataldo from Intesa Sanpaolo. Intesa Sanpaolo is one of the largest and most successful banks in Europe. Welcome, Arianna.
Ciao, hi Emanuele, hello everybody.
Thank you for being with us. And last but not least, we have Fabrizio Martre, CEO at Gummy Industries, a communication agency in north of Italy. Fabrizio, welcome.
Thank you, Emanuele. Hi everybody.
Thank you. Great. So we'll come back to all of them in a moment. We have prepared a few topics, but as I said, today the goal is to look at the RenDanHeYi from the practice lens. So it's about understanding how it looks like. It's about understanding the barriers that you may encounter when trying to go in this journey, or the reasons for even considering it. So it will be a chance not just to look at the details of the implementation, but to understand the how and the why. Before getting into that, I would like to celebrate with you a bit of what we are doing as Boundaryless. Many of you have attended one of our training or have collaborated with us, or we have having conversations. But for those that don't know about Boundaryless, well, Boundaryless is a small company that has this twofold ambition of, on one side, supporting the evolution of business models. So looking at the market and trying to reimagine the market from an ecosystemic perspective. And on the other side, imagining the future of the way organizations work internally. And we believe these are two halves of the same coin, actually, two sides of the same coin. So we want to combine them to help everybody really, not just large organizations, to participate in the future of organizing, rethinking the future of organizing. And we do that largely by sharing with you in open source for free our work. If you want to know more, you can go to boundaryless.io and read and let's say consume our content. But today, actually, I want to focus on a specific part of our work. There is this release of the new Trio Toolkit, and for those that have never heard about the RenDanHeYi and the Trio, this is a 1 minute intro, really 1 minute intro. This is what we are going to talk about today with Fabrizio, with Antonio, with Arianna, and with Andreas. The RenDanHeYi is probably the most extreme and most progressive management model of the world right now. And this picture tells us a bit about how it looks like. And you can tell this is not the typical organizational chart. There is no pyramid, there is no hierarchy. It is very organic. There are three main concepts. And again, if you want to know more, you can reach out to me, but there are three main concepts. An organization can be reimagined as a collection of micro enterprises, small, autonomous teams, and actually companies with plenty of freedom in terms of profit and loss, freedom in terms of picking the right people, freedom of creating value for customers and sharing this value with all the employees. The second concept is the ecosystem micro community, the fact that micro enterprises can compete but are also expected to collaborate. And the ecosystem micro community is the collaboration between these different teams. It's a contract. It's mostly a smart contract, so in a blockchain, but it's not a hierarchy. It's not a piece of structure, of organizational structure. It's an agreement between different teams to serve some customer needs, because all of this is customer-centric. And the third concept is rethinking even support functions. Think about HR, finance, IT, but also the strategy, some key processes in the organization by opening them up to the rest of the organization and fragmenting them also in small entrepreneurial teams. So you won't have 300 people doing HR, but you will have maybe 30 small teams that will have the mandate to pave new ground, to create new services, and to deliver value to their colleagues, in this case, to internal clients. This is in a nutshell what the RenDanHeYi looks like. But again, if you want to know more, just reach out to me. Today, we are going to talk about the 3EO together with the RenDanHeYi. The 3O means the entrepreneurial ecosystem enabling organization. The 3O is a boundaryless abstraction of the RenDanHeYi. It's a way to look at the many great ideas that Hire developed in over 3 decades, quite 4 decades, by looking at customer value on one side and looking at unlocking employee potential on the other side. We try to abstract them into a model of organization that can be helpful also for those of you that are not in China, for those of you that cannot benefit from the journey that Hire went through, to take inspiration from some of these ideas. So the RenDanHeYi, it's a way to capture these ideas. It's a way to connect these ideas to other organizations. We run more than 15 conversations with other companies, such as Morningstar, such as Jaber Rugs, such as MAQE here, such as GE Appliances, to compare notes, to see what has been taken from these companies, from the RenDanHeYi, and what they added or changed in the RenDanHeYi. And it's a way also to transcend the RenDanHeYi itself. And today, what we are going to do is really to explore how this 3O concept is evolving in terms of one of the open source tool that Boundaryless created. So during the last few years, thanks to our collaboration with Hire and Hire Research Model Institute, we try to build some tools to help everybody, not just our clients, to play with it, to play with these organizational artifacts inspired by the RenDanHeYi. Today, we are releasing 2 guides The first one is the user guide and release note. The second one is an adoption guide, and 7 canvases. A canvas is just, a format to help you play with the ideas and trying to apply those ideas to your own organization, because that's what we want to do. We want to have an impact, not just in terms of sharing knowledge, but in terms of convincing you, maybe inspiring you even, to apply these ideas in your own specific company, whether you are at 80,000 people bank or you are a 3 people small consulting or communication firm. So the first guide, the Trio Toolkit, the user guide and release note, actually has a description of the main concepts, a description of the Trio concept, and an overview of the 7 canvases with all the instructions in terms of how to use them. The adoption guide is our first attempt to model the approach that we use with around clients to launch a RenDanHeYi transformation. Of course, having some formats is not enough. It's very important to understand, based on experience, how you can experiment with this. And this process, challenge, envision, co-create, pilot, scale, is a process inspired to complexity. So there is no big design upfront. There is no 3 years Gantt. It's really a process for exploring, for iterating, for learning from different parts of the organization while they experiment with the ideas of the RenDanHeYi in co-creation with your colleagues. Again, whether you are 3 or 3,000, doesn't matter. You can invite them, you can engage them to do this, to finally build your own unique, tailored suit, right? With some ideas from the RenDanHeYi, but maybe with ideas from Agile, with ideas from sociocracy, with ideas from other places, but to have your own, let's say, tentative solution to then evolve it in over time. So again, we have a guide. It's a bit more than 30 pages with stories from the trenches, with connections to other frameworks and approaches. If you want to know more, you can download all of these. It's free. So I will give you the link. You can just click and download it. Very briefly, what are these canvases doing? The first canvas, and this is new, it's the Envisioning Canvas. It's a way to establish a conversation with your CEO, with your board, with your executives, not about the details, but about the why of this transformation. And the why to me are about innovation, are about getting rid of organizational bureaucracy, is rethinking the use of technology. It's about making the organization a place in which we as human beings want to live, want to create value. And we use these 3 lenses of the trio, the ecosystemic, the enabling, and the entrepreneurial aspect to think about what's your target scenario, where you want to go, the boundaries, things that you cannot change, and the accelerating and dampening factors, catalysts and dampeners that will impact this evolution. So that's the first canvas. It's a very high-level canvas that we use typically with the boards. The second canvas we use with the boards is the next level, taking this high-level picture and trying to describe it at a more precise layer by looking into what we mean by ecosystemic, what we mean by with enabling, what we mean with entrepreneurial, on a number of polarities. So it's like moving some levers, discussing with the team where you want to go, how far you want to go, how aggressive you want to be, and describing this position in terms of principles that will guide the entire transformation. Then again, very quickly, another canvas that we have instead revised is the Trio map. The Trio map is your organizational chart, but from a RenDanHeYi perspective. So there is, if you want to know top or bottom, no bosses. It's concentric circles. trying to rethink the key processes that every organization has to address of defining the strategy, performing the execution, and measuring the performance from the lenses of the trio. So the enabling, entrepreneurial, ecosystemic, and architecting leaderships. So these are different types of leaderships, different types of contributions that the RenDanHeYi distributes in the company. So it's not just the board, it's not just the CEO with these circles. You can say where you want these responsibilities, these leaderships to happen for each one of these three processes of strategy, execution, and performance. The next level of canvases that we have, you can play with them, is the Micro Enterprise Canvas. It's about designing these small entrepreneurial teams in terms of a catalog of services, in terms of user engagement, and in terms of picking services offered by other micro enterprises in the organization. It's the value adjustment canvas, and this is new. The value adjustment mechanism, it's a way to get an investment in a startup or in a small company. It's an investment contract. And MAQE can talk a lot, I guess, about this, and Fabrizio Martre as well. But in a nutshell, it's about creating a new startup within the company, getting money from the company, betting on some results, what we call the inflection points, and describing what is happening when you reach those goals. So how you are going to share the value with your colleagues or with other parts of the organization. In higher, if you want, it's like a big incubation exercise where the company is currently and constantly investing on these micro enterprises to let them create value for themselves and for the firm. And then going to the last two canvases, another canvas is the ecosystem micro community one. It's about building these peer-to-peer contracts to convince, to connect different micro enterprises and help them to achieve disruptive, stretchy, difficult user scenarios. And finally, the last one is the Trio organizational experiment canvas. It's about organizational experiments. So it's about trying to split a big transformation into many small steps, many small experiments, many small iterations, fixing some hypotheses for these experiments, and then learning in terms of successes, in terms of lessons learned, in terms of things that you want to scale. So into the adoption guide, you will learn how to use these canvases into a journey of transformation. At least this is our experience, this is our attempt to use these canvases in a broader, journey of transformation. So this is what we are going to release today. It's free. You can go and download it from this page. It's blss.io/Trio Toolkit. You can find it also on our site directly. It's free. It's open source, so you can use it. You can even use it with your own clients, even to do consulting. So just pick it, play with it, and let us know if you have feedback, if you have other ideas, if you see other possibilities that we didn't recognize yet. Starting from today, you can download it. If you want to know more, of course, we are providing services on this. So we have an upcoming masterclass in September. And again, you have a link here, blss.io next Trio class. And you can use this code, Trio-community, to get a 15% discount. Some of the people in this room attended this masterclass, so they can comment if we were good or not. I hope that if they are still here, we weren't that bad, at least. So that's it. That's what I wanted. To share today. But after this, I would really like to go into this conversation. conversation with Andreas, with Antonio, with Arianna, and with Fabrizio. And in the way I would like to structure this is to open up the floor with some questions of my own, but then to invite you to have these your own questions, so to integrate my questions with yours. The first round of the table I would like to do is about the why. So many of you may have lots of expertise about RenDanHeYi. Many of you attended the masterclass. We spent days thinking and discussing about it, but probably to some of you, this is totally new. And for me, this conversation is important because regardless of the details, but the whys of the RenDanHeYi are important for every organization in the world. And I have my own whys, of course, but I would like to hear it from our hosts here, what they think is the business value, the unique business value that the RenDanHeYi can bring. So I will start with Arianna and Antonio. If you can share what you really feel so different, if you want, so powerful about the RenDanHeYi. So Arianna.
Thank you, Manuele. So starting from what is really unique from our side about RenDanHeYi, I can think about immediately about three elements. The first one is linked to people engagement, because this model has the capability to align people objectives with the company wants, so that the alignment in terms of motivation, engagement is really high. This characteristic is very linked to the second one, that is entrepreneurship, because for engaging people, this model is able to leverage on their initiative, on the capability and the talents of the people that can express them in a way that put together two concepts that are far away in the common thinking, and so employee on one side and on the other entrepreneur. But by doing this, it succeeds in something really incredible. The third characteristic that in such a way, in my understanding, make this model unique in terms of value is maybe the fact that it plays following market rules. There is the need to produce value just to go ahead. So being inspired by market logic, results objective are declared in a very transparent way with a logic of value creation, and where contribution given is traced and measurable. So just to answer the question, is there anybody who would buy what I'm doing? And if the answer is yes, maybe you are on the right path. So I think these are the three main characteristics that make unique this model. But in general, I have to admit that there's something magic in all these mechanism that maybe is the part that I didn't understand yet completely, and maybe I will ask to you or to somebody present here.
Thank you, Arianna. So just to recap, we talked about employee engagement, we talked about entrepreneurship, and we talked about making the organization a bit more similar to what the market does. And again, I just want to stress this, but tell me, what organization wouldn't like to do this? If you think about organizational bureaucracy, delays, lack of employee engagement, I think this is meaningful for all of the market. Antonio, what would you like to add to this list?
Hard to add anything to what Arianna already said. So you are a master. So the question is, so why? And my answer is why not? So how would you organize a team if you truly believe that we have immense potential? So if we believe on human potential, if we believe on creativity, on liberating ourselves from these goals and these objective-driven mechanisms, we should organize differently. And look at where we are today. We've been practicing something different for many years, and has it paid off? I don't know. So we have evolved, but are we happy? Look at my face, I'm not, but I'm happier now, because simply we have the magic that you, Ariana, what you were describing. I don't know how to call it either. The former chairman of HII, he said, RenDanHeYi is an atmosphere. So it's neither a philosophy, not a model. It's an atmosphere. And in this atmosphere, so you breathe something, and you breathe collaboration, you breathe humanity. And this is what you experience when you are working as a team, and when you are creating, and you are working on creating value. And that value is being created through empathy. And that's what I love the most about it. When you are zero distance, and I'm throwing a bunch of concepts here, so I apologize for that. I'm not an academic, I'm a practitioner, but it's when you're zero distance to who you are serving, it is about listening, it is about understanding, and it is about empathy. So when you look for an empathetic model, you find this model at the center of it. And you find vulnerability, because to your point, Ariana, is my product right? Would somebody care about what I do? Well, actually, you need to be very open to accept the answer. Probably not. And what is the reason why your product might not have the value you thought it had? Because probably you didn't ask the question ahead of time, because you thought that you had the answer even before talking to the people who are going to consume your product. Why don't you ask them? Why don't you go ahead and co-create it with them? So make them part of the solution, which is the nirvana of all of this, which is the DAOs and the fully decentralized organizations. So there are many reasons why this makes sense. My fear is the name is not appealing, and this is for you, Fabrizio, as a marketing and communications guru. So it doesn't work, and that doesn't work in a world where we don't even know how to define it. It's a word with 4 different parts, but which 2 letters mean something, but when you combine it, even in Chinese, it's something that didn't exist before. So it's very philosophical. What I feel is, and what you, Emanuele, and the team has done is, in this world, practice leads theory. So we are practicing, we're creating things, and you and your team have been very generous on developing the theory and the canvas behind it. But the issue remains that how do we define it with fewer words? My new definition, and let's see if this works and this is appealing here in this group, it is a combination in between co-creation and zero distance. At the end, this is what we are all doing here. We are getting closer to each other in order to do something together. And that's my why, which is I don't know if it is a why or it's a how, but I'm just trying to answer your very complex question, Emanuele.
Let me stress what you just raised, zero distance. And this is how many of us have been referring to the RenDanHeYi, but it's really one of the few models, even in organizations as big as HII. HII in China has 80,000 people. GEA is very big. This is really the opportunity to translate the RenDanHeYi in a different way, to connect every employee with every customer, and to generate value by this, marriage, this conversation, this co-creation, as Antonio was saying. So it's about getting rid of managers, of delays, of bureaucracy, of many things that we considered necessary for the last 100 years. And then this HII story popped up and said, wow, maybe it's not necessary, or there are other ways to do it. And I like what Antonio was just saying. It's not a model. It's not something to copy. None of us is convinced that you can go and copy, but maybe that's why this conversation is relevant, because each one of us is stressing one aspect of this value. Thank you, Antonio. Fabrizio, you have been involved, and why Antonio knows this, because Fabrizio is representing Gummy Industries company in Italy. They have their own, they implemented the RenDanHeYi in a matter of months. It took 3 decades, but of course Gummy Industries is a bit smaller, much smaller actually, but they came up also with a different naming. So it's not called, but it's called what?
So we start thinking to RenDanHeYi in the few model because in after 10 years of Gummy Industries, we are doing business in marketing and communication on internet. We have some problem like slowness, confusion. We have a lot of process, a lot of work, maybe some lack of creativity. Okay. And some people are overworking. We say why, okay? And I think with the why for us is because we are bigger now. So we start 10 years ago when with 5 people, and now we are 60. Okay, so we just think, okay, we have to roll back to the roots, to our origin, and but it's quite complicated. So I meet Emanuele, I meet Boundarless, and I study all the model, all the RenDanHeYi. And say, oh, I think it could be perfect for us. But all the stuff, all the model, all this topic, all this kind of topic that we are discussing about, I think are too strong and, can I say, too boring for my team. I work with gamers, guy and girls on Twitch, young people on TikTok, and skill like that. So it's quite difficult to me to say everyone, okay, we have new process, we have micro companies, we have smart contracts. I think it's too dangerous. So a day after like a year of studying and develop ideas about this model, about our transformation model. Me and Alessandro was one of the founder with me of Gummy Industries. Okay, we go to the company, say, okay, guys, we are Italian. Everybody here like food and kitchen. So starting for today, we are open our food district. In our food district, we have 6 or 7 kitchen, not huge restaurant, small kitchen. Who want to let a kitchen? If you can choose to let a kitchen, and you have to develop a project about your kitchen, what your menu, what you want to cook, what kind of service do you want to offer to the market, and also what's your brigade, what's your team. And to the other people in Gummy, we say, okay, what's the best kitchen for you? Do you want to work for the kitchen of I don't know, Anna or Laura? So we open like a market, like a fresh market. Some moment, some time where a company, everyone in the company talk to each other. And after that, yes, we launch our project in 6 months, 1 year ago, and now we have 6 kitchen. The kitchen are micro companies. We have a special kitchen that is our fresh market, because every chef in every restaurant, I think, in the world, also here in Italy, in the early morning they go to the fresh market to buy food. So our chef, our team leader in a micro company, every morning can call the fresh market. So a special for us micro company that offer to other kitchen, to other micro company services like marketing, administration, and sales. And so we develop an ecosystem with new names, not the original one names, not the original wording, but we all base everything. We dress it, okay, our organizational model with a food, kitchen, chef. Also, we're launching, yes, also today, our research and development team. And obviously, we call them pastry shops because pastry shops are transversal to the kitchen, to our micro company, and everything seems to go well now. We, as I said, we decided to switch to a new model because not for the market, but for us, for ourselves, to find good ways to work. And as Antonio said before, I think yes, to improve creativity, because I think that creativity are better when you work in small team. It's difficult to have great ideas if you plan to develop ideas with 50 people each time. So this is our way.
Thanks, Fabrizio. Andreas, what is happening in Thailand? So, you know, we are going from US, Italy, Thailand. What's the why for you? What's in it?
I was going to say that what's happening in Thailand right now is that it's pouring out. It's an absolute torrential rainstorm outside. Our why. So we got on this journey about a year and a half ago. At this point, like you said earlier, I attended one of your seminars very early on there. But we had already been on this journey for quite a while before that, in terms of trying to find an organizational model that worked for us. And what we were looking for was autonomy and upside, those two things. And we MAQE, the company, has been around for about 10 years, so we experimented a lot with different modes of self-organization and self-management in various forms. And to be honest, like it seemed to me, and maybe some of the listeners might disagree with me here, but I felt like there was a lack of business and entrepreneurship sense to a lot of the organizational models that we encountered. That's not to say that we are a very entrepreneurial organization to begin with. We are very inward focused, or has been. But in RenDanHeYi, we saw a couple of things. Number one, here's a organizational model that can help us provide both autonomy and upside to people who work here. And by that I mean autonomy, being able to make the decisions that affect you, and upside in having a financial incentive directly in direct proportion to what you do, as opposed to, you know, being a frontline worker and then having your bonus set by someone in the head office in another country. So we wanted autonomy and upside, but we also wanted this business entrepreneurship orientation, because at the end of the day, we're a business. We're here to make money. We want to make money in a good way, so a way that we can be proud of. But it's a profit-seeking business as well. And then for me, the third thing I would say is RenDanHeYi is born and raised in Asia, and that was important for us. A lot of the organizational models that you find out there today or has grown up in Europe or the US, and that has been a little bit of a challenge for us. I am Swedish by birth. I've been in Thailand for 10 years, but I am one of the few people at MAQE who are not Thai. And so having an organizational model with a track record in Asia was important for us as well. So basically you could prove that it could work here. So I think those are the three things. So the why, autonomy and upside, wanted to get the entrepreneurship angle to it, and the fact that it was proven to work in Asia was important.
Thank you. So each one of you touched on a slightly different angle of the same elephant, right? So the tail, the head, and this famous story. And to me, there is so much surprising about the RenDanHeYi that, yeah, it's difficult to answer the question the same way. But I'm curious to understand when you first heard about the RenDanHeYi. Because in the case of Antonio, there was one company acquiring your own company, maybe, or in the case of Fabrizio and Andres, because you were looking for some answers for your own company. In the case of Arianna, because there is an initiative going in the direction. But when you first heard about these quite totally independent micro enterprises with people that can decide, can pay others as they want, can share value, can innovate, can compete, when you have these support functions that are, competitive as well, what is that surprised you the most? So we talked about the why, but what is the craziest thing that you heard about the RenDanHeYi when it came to your attention? I will start maybe from Antonio, because you are the one with the longest, let's say, chronologically speaking, experience.
Yeah, we're one of the originals.
What did you think? Are these guys crazy, or what? Or this is fantastic? What's your first reaction?
We couldn't avoid hearing about it because for you guys in the room, so we were acquired by RenDanHeYi in 2016, and we didn't know much about RenDanHeYi, even though RenDanHeYi has been in the white goods business for quite a while. And here in the US, we didn't look at RenDanHeYi as a competitor. So therefore, we didn't study them much. So they were in the sphere of our business. So when we hear the news that RenDanHeYi was interested in our business, so first we started trying to read something about it. We couldn't understand much, and there are some anecdotes and some stories that you can find in some of the books and some of the papers that we have collaborated. So we went, and a group went first to China, because what is this, right? So who is this company, and what is this RenDan something? We didn't even know how, we still don't know how to pronounce it. But anyway, so we didn't know what it meant. And there's a story from our CEO, Kevin Nolan, who went there, and he decided to spend a full year over there to understand it. And for him, he says, it was pure chaos. So he saw the appliances coming out of the plants. He saw people walking around the plants and doing stuff, but he couldn't understand anything. Just imagine, and there are two things that can come to mind right now. So I don't know how to play chess, but if I see two people, two grown-ups, just in front of each other, moving things on a table, I don't know the rules. I don't know what is going on. The same was happening when he went to China. Something was going on. Only the participants knew what was happening. The same if you happen to go to any airport in India, you'll see that there are no lines, there are no queues, because people are just like pushing into the counter. But there are rules, and they know what they're doing. You don't. This is exactly what happened when we went to China the first time. We didn't understand. We asked for the organizational charts. They have none. We asked who's the boss. They have no boss. We asked for the process and the goals. The goals were not written. So many things that we assumed that were like givens weren't there. And everything changed when we started listening. And we start assuming, or stop assuming, that we knew everything, and we're trying to see the world through the lens we brought from the US, and open it up like, okay, let's learn more about it. So tell me more about how you guys work here. And it was liberating. It was liberating because actually what the model offered and what we saw offered was exactly what we were hoping for. We just didn't know how to get there. We were hoping and looking for freedom. We were a company that were part of an organization that was founded more than 100 years ago. And we felt that we were trapped in the wrong body. and we're looking for freedom, and we're looking for new ways of doing things. We couldn't do it. That model offered us the opportunity to have this autonomy that Andreas was talking about, and we found it. And the second thing is, yes, on the bureaucracy part, we found a solution to get rid of these processes that were forcing us to serve internal clients, to serve what we call corporate, to serve ourselves instead of serving those outside. And the third piece is we found ourselves owning our future. And that thing was super powerful because we couldn't understand anything what was going on in China, but we extracted these 3 lessons. And when we came back here to the US, we started like translating that into something that people could relate to. And we have a 15,000 people organization. So it's a very large organization across the US. So just adapting and translating was a challenge, but it was because we were speaking the same philosophical language, that autonomy, freedom, liberating us from these heavy chains of bureaucracy. People love it and people embraced it. So our first encounter was messy. Our second date was much better. And now we are dating again, and we are just like living together, and we are enjoying it.
And getting married, maybe, I don't know.
Beyond married, yes. We
Yeah.
are committed.
No, I find it really interesting getting apart that what you just described is what I would bet most large organizations are hoping for, up to the point that people wake up Monday morning, really, disengaged, unhappy, frustrated. So it's not just about money, it's about the life of millions of human beings. That is not what it could be because of the organizations in which they spend most of their time. So I think this is really powerful. We'll talk about money later, but let's say it's not just about money and results. It's about energy. It's about passion. It's about freedom. It's about self-realization. Okay, so this is one side. Arianna, you are in a bank. You are in a regulated market. Are these things possible? What did you think when you heard about it?
Actually, I have to admit that I remember the first time I heard about it, and I thought, how is it possible? And at the very beginning, I also thought, but it's something crazy. And now I'm just the most exposed people within the organization, just to try to make something happen. So I think that, of course, in terms of cultural approach, we are very far from here. As you said, we are a big bank, leading banking group in Italy. I don't want to annoy you by telling how many branches, how many customers, but being one of the Italian biggest banks, of course, we are a regulated subject. We are characterized by a traditional and hierarchical organization. The activities are fragmented due to the complexity that we have to manage, of course. But okay, just to give you in a nutshell the framework in which we play. So I couldn't hear something farther from our reality when I heard the first time about RenDanHeYi. But I have to also admit that I was quickly in love with this not model, with this philosophy, with this approach. As you said, Emanuele, all the employers should pay attention to people engagement. All the things that you said, especially in a big organization as our bank or in general within the biggest company, maybe it's easier sometimes to lose your engagement. So it is scientifically proven that greater engagement leads to greater productivity. But beyond that, I think that in particular in this historical moment of great change that maybe is also accelerated by the speed of technologies, there's a great variability, discontinuity, including geopolitical ones. I think the pandemic, I don't want to stress too much, but having changed our habit in terms of our way of working, it's of fundamental importance for me to recover the motivation, the creativity of people within the companies. And we are a great bank, but I think that financial services are particularly impacted by all these changes and all these complexities, so that looking at a new way of working like this, an approach like this, leveraging on entrepreneurship, leveraging on talent, where people are, of course, engaged, and we are aware that people make difference because it's demonstrated. We demonstrated ourselves that is like this. I think that maybe we were in the right moment just to try. So what we are doing with curiosity at this stage actually is just to invest, to experiment, because maybe this is a moment in which we also afford to make mistakes in this kind of experimentation. But of course, we are very curious in understanding this approach and in understanding how we can tailor some aspect to our reality, to our company. So first reaction, they're crazy, but the immediately second one is it would be great just to apply also a little part within our organization, because the upside is really incredible. And another thing that really surprised me is the excellent results that Hire succeeded by using this kind of new approaches, philosophy of, because I think it's not right to define it a model. I agree with Antonio.
Thank you, Arianna. So the first lesson for me is that whether you are in a regulated market, you have 100 years of history, you have 15,000 people or 80,000 people, actually there is something good for you. It may be weird at the beginning, but it's possible. What happens in smaller organizations, because we all know that the kind of bureaucracy, complexity, process that you have in a multinational company is not the same as the one that you have in a small firm. Andreas, what has been your first reaction to the RenDanHeYi? Were you only excited or a bit worried about what that could mean? For once you told me, yeah, but we had to sustain this, so we couldn't let anybody just to do whatever they wanted without getting any money, right? So any preoccupation at the beginning or only energy?
No, yeah, a bit of everything. I mean, just to point out, like when you first hear about how Hire is structured for the 500 micro enterprises, completely autonomous. Somehow that works, between 80,000 people. That is surprising, but it's also the reason why you get enthralled and you want to learn more. But you're right. For us, in terms of getting started, we are an 80-person company, not an 80,000-person company. So it's slightly different scale. We are a service organization as opposed to a product or experience organization. And these things are different, and we also don't have a lot of investment capital to rely on. So we have to change the wheels of the car as we're driving, and that work is ongoing. So it's we're about a year and a half down this road, and I really wish we had done more. Listening to Fabrizio now, like I feel like we should do more, but it takes time. And to get everyone on board and making sure that we're not shooting ourselves in the foot as we go. So.
Thank you. Fabrizio, what about you guys? You attended the masterclass, then you went away and came back and said, we did it. No fear?
No fear. No, I don't know if no fear, but we was, and I am now totally excited about the model, because the model, what we read, what we studied, represented all our value, corporate value, the way we work with people, the way we work with clients. So it fit perfectly for us in time. So as I said before, we say we have to roll back and go to 5 people. So this is the best way to create a small team, starting from a larger team. And I think the best, yes, the best thing for me, the best curious things, and also the best things that give us results now, is that this model help people to talk with clients, talk with customer. So every people, every micro company or or kitchen in Gummy Industries have the possibility to talk with clients, to understand clients. It was quite different before, because we digital agency or communication agency have a project manager, something who told the client that is the account client. So this is a problem for us, because after some years, creative people such copywriter, designer, social media strategist, influencer, don't have to talk to clients. So maybe they don't understand the complexity of a business, of a problem, and also can't express new ideas about new project, new way to do things. Okay, so when I read something and we say, okay, you have to take all your people in your company, and all the people in the company talk to the clients. Wow, I think this is good. I think, wow, let's try. Okay, maybe sometime I take on a calendar on a meeting our new social media manager, who is a 20 years old, to talk with a CEO from a bank. Okay, it's quite could be quite scary, but when everybody in a team in one of our micro company talk with clients, I think we generate value, a lot of value, because we generate value with clients, because we say, hey, your team is here. Value because you understand better the problems, you understand better how to develop your project. And the best thing for me as an entrepreneur is that as I can say, people that talk with clients now can imagine the future. So I try to express myself with an example. Someone say, okay, we have to develop something, a service or something for the metaverse, because everyone now talk about the metaverse. I say, okay, 10 or more years ago, I write a lot about virtual worlds and stuff like that. So I'm not so happy to develop a new business. But people say, no, but clients want that. We have 3D artists. We know how to do so. This became a new service, and I think this is for us, for me, the best thing, because people in Gummy Industries, talking with clients, find new business for me. Also business that me and Alessandro, my business partner, maybe we we can say, well, no, I don't trust. But they say, no, you have to trust. There are the numbers, the idea, the project, and the clients want that. So this is, I think, the best thing for me.
Okay. So as we have seen, we have different angles, different levels of complexities, even different expectations, I would say, for what to get out from the RenDanHeYi. I would like to give you, I don't know if that's possible, but let's try a 1 minute description of what each one of these companies did. And Fabrizio, I think, already shared a bit. So Fabrizio, sorry about that. I will summarize it, and then I will ask Arianna, Antonio, Andreas to do the same. For some of these stories, just keep in mind that we had conversation with Andreas, with Fabrizio. So I will share with you a couple of links. So if you want to go and read all the details about what Antonio and GA is doing, in the chat you will find our interview. We did the same with MAQE, and actually we have done an interview also with Fabrizio that is not yet online, but that will be soon. So you will find all the details into it. But in a nutshell, what Gummy did was implementing all the RenDanHeYi. So they fermented the company into kitchens, Italians, you know, with chefs, not leaders, with a brigade, not a team. But they also build the concept that in the RenDanHeYi is the SSP. So let's say centralizing some services, the food market, that are provided to all the teams. And what Fabrizio didn't describe, but I think is important, that they also incorporated one of these micro enterprises. So the next stage into this process is not just to have independent teams, but to have companies, real companies that are co-owned by Hire and by the owners. So the leaders, let's say, of this micro enterprise, they did it with the flatmates. So, you know, you see different parts of that picture that I show you, independent teams, but you have something in common, but you use these contracts, let's say, to facilitate the company. And to me, this is very important, goes from being a communication agency to being an incubator of new ventures. So these colleagues that can create new services, even when Fabrizio doesn't agree with that, I think it's very powerful, because it's these people that are going to create new value, to anticipate the market, and make the clients happy. So in a nutshell, I think this is Gummy Industries story, but you will find it in our article sooner. I don't know, Fabrizio, if there is any specific thing that you would like to add to this.
No, I think you summarized well everything. So this is what we are doing now. And yes, Flatmate was a kitchen in Gummy. In the early stage, Flatmate was a kitchen who developed project about social media. After this kitchen developed project with social media influencer, starting working more with influencer, and they have good economics. So we decided to starting a new company outside Gummy Industries in collaboration with Gummy. So yes, and the process, we call the process to become a restaurant. So kitchen when grow up became a restaurant.
Okay, so mature kitchens are restaurants. You see, I think this goes back to what Antonio was saying. Of course, this conversation is a bit complex and a bit technical, if you want. Some people are in love with this. Some people just prefer to, to do it or to see the business outcomes, and that's fine. But for sure, there are ways, and Gummy Industries is demonstrating that, to translate this complexity in something that is a bit more palatable. Andreas, do you want to give us the quick summary of what you did, and maybe a suggestion I will give Andreas is to tell us a bit about the process, the innovation management process that you have used. And one question I always hear is, wow, this is very risky. How can we do this without sinking the boat? actually, I believe Andreas and MAQE found a way to that. Andreas.
Well, it remains to be seen, I guess. We haven't sunk yet, so but time will tell. Yeah. Let's see. So some background. So MAQE is a software engineering company. We work in commerce. We help external organizations create commerce solutions. I mentioned that we were already exploring and experimenting with different new and better ways of working even before we discovered RenDanHeYi. So if you take a look at the link that you have in the chat, you will find a bunch of organizational structures, things that we have adopted over the years, and we currently have a role-based organization that is akin to or similar to sociocracy or holocracy. There's this aspects of that. So we already had those things up and running when RenDanHeYi came aboard, but we felt like those things provided the autonomy part of the equation. We were lacking the upside part of the equation, and that is now coming in. We call them solutions. What Hire and RenDanHeYi called micro enterprises, we just call them solutions, which is a bit confusing if you're steeped in the RenDanHeYi vernacular. But what we're doing currently is we're basically building our own venture builder, where we are encouraging people within MAQE who have business ideas that are complementary to our existing commerce offering, to turn those ideas into a tangible product or service. We are currently creating the foundations for this. So there's a 3-stage process, starting with the incubation phase, where we are helping the to-be entrepreneurs to actually sharpen their business ideas, making sure that they are differentiated, making sure that they have a clear value proposition, etc., etc. What follows after that is a 3-stage acceleration process where we provide them a little bit of capital, not a lot because we're not a big company, we don't have a lot of money, but we can give them time and we can give them a little bit of money to bring their product and or service to market. And there are certain achievements that they have to hit within 3, 6, and 9 month time frame, that we can go into details. But the important part comes after that. If a new solution actually makes it through incubation and acceleration, we actually go to what we call the Incorporation Phase, where we have to spin off the new solution as a separate entity and give equity share to the founders. We haven't gotten that far yet, but we are currently looking at ways to decide, set the enterprise value at that point in time and making sure that that's all fair and squared away and before we get there, so to speak. So to date, we have about 4 or 5 of these solutions that are currently in the running. Some are more mature than others. Some are actually meeting customers already, etc., and some are just starting. And they range from anything from one service who are using low-code solutions to experiment with new commerce solutions, to another group of people who are creating a board game for quality assurance professionals, which is really cool. So taking a very broad sweep at creating new businesses. We'll see how it pans out.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think the solution that Andreas and MAQE found in terms of having a stage-gated process of increasing investment, freedom, and success is really a good way to mitigate risk and fear in terms of the owners or the founders or the senior executives of the firm. So it's a way to say it's not black or white. It's not all or nothing. You can define a path through which you can engage your colleagues to consolidate their ideas and to become owners up to the point in which they really own the business. you can manage it even if you don't have billions of investment. I think it's a good news for all of us that you know, really want to explore this path in a bit more controlled or secure or sustainable, how you want to call it, let's say, environment. I think this is really smart. Arianna, now to you. I don't know what you can share, but I think I would really be interested to hear what the bank is doing.
Of course. I have to admit that we are many steps back from what I've heard so far. Of course, I explained to you the general situation that we are approaching, but in general, even if, of course, we are far from the model on a cultural side, we understood that at the same time, as a big bank, we started to have the need to evolve, to be more flexible, more adaptive, more attractive. So we start rethinking organizational model, just as we said before, just to let people express their creativity, feel more engaged, feel more empowered to be competitive in the world we live in, that we face. So we start rethinking the organization inspired by RenDanHeYi concept, because we were really involved in this kind of approach. So we started spreading this innovative model within the organization, and we started a sort of onboarding phase, we can say, maybe sometimes leveraging on especially one business unit within our great group, in which top management already started feel these needs in terms of organizational change, people empowerment. So when we understood that the potential was very high, because I think that for everybody who is involved in organizational design, in designing organizational models, thinking about an organization that is a sort of enabling factor for people is maybe an enormous goal. We understood that there was interest, so we started turning this inspiration into a project, a real one. So we were able to put all the main, we can say, souls of the bank in terms of competencies around the table, literally. So we put all the expert and high-level top management around the table, with the idea to create a cross-functional team working together to define a sort of archetype model to be applied to a pilot case. As I said, that this is a real project. It means that we are investing in it in terms of time. We define some key areas such as organizational model and rules, HR and compensation, legal architecture, PNC and KPI definition, defining ownership, outcomes desired, and deadlines. So what we want to try is just to understand how manage this complexity, just to apply this kind of model within our bank, tailoring it, just keeping in mind always our needs and our way of being. And so the idea is just to start with to try to experiment. So our aim is just by the end of the year try to activate a sort of applied experimentation.
Thank you. You see that, of course, the approach is quite different from what you can find in a smaller firm. I don't know if you can understand from Arianna's words the complexity, the number and types of stakeholder, compliance, legal people, that risk management, people that have the mandate to prevent the organization in getting in trouble. That's what they do. And personally, what I'm seeing is that even these people perceive the value. So of course you need to work with them, but we are in a point in history in which even with a bit of control, potentially fear, an existing culture, but the potential is so big that it's valuable to do this work. It's lots of work, lots of time, lots of energy, lots of investment, because the prize is so big. And I'm saying that Arianna didn't do that, but Intesa is one of the most successful banks in Europe. So you have one of the most successful companies in Europe self-disrupting itself intentionally, when you could just be complacent, being happy with where they are and do nothing. So again, to me, this is another trend. If you are successful, good. That's the time to do that, because if you are a big organization, it will take time. So you cannot do that when you are in trouble. And to me, this is a big lesson that also I are demonstrating. So they have been doing this for 40 years, even if they were already leaders in white good appliances. This is so powerful and culturally telling, let's say, of what success means now in these times. Antonio, of course, you have a bit more history, so the synthesis probably.
You're muted, but I'll be brief.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
And there is two good ways to go back to history. One is by listening the podcast that Emanuele kindly put in the chat. The other one, and I apologize for shameless advertising, but there is a book that was just recently released. We have no affiliation with it, but we collaborated with them. It's called Leadership in the. You can read, and it's Professor Annika Stiver, and this is also supported by HMI, the Higher Model Institute. And that she basically collected all the experience we had here. So the whole history and the steps we took are there. My word of caution here is that RenDanHeYi is neither a recipe nor a destination. So whatever we did might not work for you. And the fact that we are where we are doesn't mean that we reached nirvana. RenDanHeYi is a journey. And we're learning every day, and we are making mistakes every day. And by making mistakes, I mean we're learning every day. And also context is super important. So GE Appliances was part of one of the largest conglomerates in the world, General Electric. And we were founded 100 years ago, and Thomas Edison was part of this company. So we were totally internally focused. So when I say that our first step was declaring our leading goal, that will sound like very basic. So didn't you guys have a goal? Well, yes, we had it, but what was totally internally focused was, as part of one of the largest companies in the world, our role was to be part of one of the key elements within that big organization. So our goal was not externally focused. We didn't declare that we wanted to win in the marketplace. We didn't declare that we wanted to be number one. We didn't declare that. So our goal was to survive within a large corporation. So our first step was declaring what is what we want to accomplish here? What is what we want to achieve in the marketplace? Being number one, whatever it was, right? The second is how, which was more the strategic question. Well, we want to make sure that we serve our users. So zero distance on the way. Because our only boss used to be what we call corporate, which was the guy on the corner office. We made the decisions. So we break away from that and we say, okay, we want to serve those who are outside here in this building. And the third piece was, it was how. How do we get there? Well, by creating the micro enterprises. So this is like the very basic 3 steps. We declare what we wanted. We declare and we communicated how we wanted to do it by getting closer to our users. And the best way to get closer to our user was to split our company into small pieces. The known pieces were the big 4 things that we all have in our houses, right? So one business unit is, as you can imagine, are the refrigerators. Okay, so that's one micro enterprise. We make freezers and refrigerators. Then second one is cooking, or the kitchens on the ranges when we cook. So that's a second one. That's pretty basic. So we created this 4-1, and then we open up, as Fabrizio will say, our kitchen, so our marketplace, and then many others start populating and just mushrooming. Okay, so we have like 20 right now. Big things, small things, crazy things. So that this is happening as we speak. So we freed the organization and the teams to creating their own teams and their own businesses. We gave authority to make decisions, to define their goals, and also what is called in the model, and you'll see in many books, the right of firing and hiring, which is basically is managing people. And the compensation model was changed, and it is more tied to results versus to pleasing your boss. So it is basically how much value you created. The value could be monetized, could be in dollar value, or could be value creation with different KPIs. So we did these 5 things. You can see it, and we Emmanuel and I talked about it in the podcast, and you'll see it in this book as well. So they are described there. As a result, yeah, we doubled the business in 4 years, and doubling the business in 4 years in the US, it's like, you gotta be kidding me. So yeah, you're lying, or your base was so low that yeah, no, everybody can double the business while you're making only $1. So this was a fairly sizable business. We were already in 50% of the homes in the US. Now I wouldn't say we're in 100%, but we got more appliances in that 50% of the home. So we doubled the size of our penetration. We doubled the business of this company, and our cost is going down. Our initiatives have been going up. So it is working. So do we know everything? No, we're far from knowing everything. Do we love everything we have done? Well, we love how much we have learned for everything we have done. Several things haven't worked. Some other are working very well.
Thank you. There is so much insight in these words and in the conversation. So it's a constant learning. It's definitely about a big transformation, especially if you have history, and but it's also about results. And we didn't talk much about this, but this is GA is one example. There are other examples in which, together with higher, the numbers have been astonishing. So at the end, it's also because of the business. It's not only, but it's also because of the business. So I would like to open the floor to the rest of the group. I have some more questions, but I would like to hear your questions. Just before doing that, let me share that this is the first step in 2 installments, let's say, series. So we are going to have another event, if you want to join us again, on June the 30th, same time, 2 p.m., 4 p.m. And the title is Will the RenDanHeYi Work for Me? So in this case, we are talking about stories. And in the second event, we are going to get a bit more into the transformation process. So how other organizations can learn and can do it if they want. So you will receive an email, but I just wanted to share this before the final part of this event. So let me stop sharing, and I would like to see if there are any questions from you guys. So everybody in the room, is there anything you would like to ask Antonio, Arianna, Fabrizio, Andreas, since they are doing it? So maybe you're thinking about it. Maybe you are, you are just surprised by it. You don't believe into it. Whatever, you can just fire what you want to share. So I see a few messages in the chat. The first one is from Stephanie. So Stephanie is saying, can you give me an example of your current role, Antonio? Are you in a migrant enterprise or are you in a board currently?
Neither nor. I'm in a platform. So that used to be a function. So it's like legal, HR. I work in communications. So my role is communications. And I work also on the business transformation. And my role and my team's role, our role here is to support the company's communications, the strategy, and to build and protect the reputation of the company. As a platform, we are a service, and as a service, the micro enterprises can choose to work with us or not, and this is an open market. So let's say Emanuele is the leader of one of our micro enterprises. He will come to me or anyone in our team, and he will ask for help. He will ask for whatever he needs, and we'll offer him a pitch. Basically, we'll offer our services. If he feels that we're not giving giving him what he wants, so obviously he's open to go anywhere else. And we're always competing to creating value and to supporting the whole organization. But definitely we are a platform in that respect.
So as you remember at the beginning, there are two types of platforms. One is the industry platform, and that's about strategy. It's about finding some key directions and investing in those directions. The second one is the one Antonio is just describing, is SSPs, shared service platforms. There is about infusing entrepreneurship into support functions. And just keep in mind that this is the most difficult part. You know, business people are always looking at the market, but support people for 100 years just benefited from being sitting on the back and trying to serve their colleagues at the best they can, but without ever getting in touch with the market. Now, what Antonio is saying is, if I'm not happy with what Antonio's team is doing, I can buy the same service from a competitor, from somebody else in the market. So this creates pressure on the most bureaucratic part of the organization. And many experiments are addressing this, with a bit of resistance, I would say. So that's really interesting part. It gets real. It's where the rubber meets the road, let's say, in an organizational sense. Okay.
Thank you very much. So it's probably not the best example to start with experimenting, but it's easier to go a bit closer to the market, and that's what I take out of your response as well.
There are a few schools of thought when you want to imagine how to do it. One way is starting from the micro enterprises, so starting from the market, let's say. Fujitsu is another story. We did an interview with them. They have started from business development, so they have services they are selling, and that's a starting point. Eventually, they came to the service platforms. Another way, actually, it's our preferred way in Boundaryless, is trying to tackle both the dimensions together. So to pick, if you want, pilots, experiments that involve both internal services and customer-facing services, and trying to establish this collaboration. So it's not only the micro enterprise, it's both the micro enterprise and other units, and that's an EMC contract. Of course, it depends on the maturity, on the priorities of the organization. There is not only one way.
But Stephanie, to build on that, and thank you for raising that point. So we did it all. So we created the micro enterprises and the platforms at the same time to serve. So for the platforms to be able to serve them. And you're absolutely right. This is very tricky and very complex because you are giving away power. So the functions in the old structures, in the current business structures, the functions are the core of everything. And just imagine manufacturing, they were deciding what the different, call it micro enterprises, the different business units will make and will sell. And finance, they will define in the budget. And HR, they will define in the people you have. So these are power buckets that we had in the old structure. So to break them apart is so hard. And to expose them to the market dynamics is probably one of the most challenging things in this model. And for those platform leaders to see their power going away to the new business units, to the micro enterprises, is painful for them. So this is my word of caution. Yes, so this will shake up the organization, and that this will expose this unnecessary power buckets that we have created over the years. The good thing is that, yeah, you are ripping off the Band-Aid. The bad thing is you have open wounds and you could bleed because you lose talent. But at the same time, you gain confidence and people will start living and breathing what we call RenDanHeYi, but actually is the real laws of the market, and they'll be open to this to the exposure that comes with offering a service in an open platform.
Thanks, very helpful. Thank you, Antonio.
You're welcome.
Thank you also, Stephanie. Michael, I think you raised your hand.
Thank you very much. Very inspiring conversation. So thank you for bringing this together. I'm very new to your world, but I've spent the last 2 weeks diving into everything I can possibly read. My specific question is, has this methodology been used in a non-corporate environment? So specifically with community engagement. If I may take a minute just to give some context. In South Africa, and I think it was Antonio that said this, it's a mechanism of unleashing human potential. So in South Africa, we have very high numbers of unemployed people. We have very large tracts of land owned by faith-based organizations. And those two unused resources are ripe for industrial hemp. And the idea here is to use this methodology to create new value chains in an entirely new marketplace, but driven from the bottom up. And using these organizing principles and methodologies that I've seen here and that I intuitively feel will work exceptionally well. But I'm just curious, is there anybody that you're aware of that's using this in a non-corporate environment?
So maybe I will tackle that. In our trio conversations, so what we have tried to do is to create connections, similarities, but also differences between the RenDanHeYi and other approaches. Stories, but also methods, if you want. What we have seen is that there are many commonalities, even in the not-for-profit space. So these two trends of unbundling the firm into many independent teams, let's say autonomous independent teams, the micro enterprises, and rebundling them around customer outcomes, whatever a customer may be. It could be a patient, it could be a citizen, it could be a worker, is touching the entire market. If you think about Buurtzorg, there is one of the well-known stories in the not-for-profit environment. They have partly, at least, the same patterns, the same trends. And Morningstar in the US as well. So it's really common. For sure, there is a lot of attention right now, also from government. There is attention from cooperatives. I must say that in this case, the journey started a bit more from the for-profit, at least in my experience. But in our master classes, we always have one or two teams that are trying to come to it from the other angle. So I don't have a final answer, but let's say the mechanisms of empowering people, of connecting them around specific outcomes, of attracting investments to these new, let's say, ventures, to me is really applicable everywhere, not just in the for-profit or corporate space. Some more comments, questions. Christian said, yeah, what about work laws? I think Bosch here, it's another conversation we had. Bosch is an example of an organization coming from an agile background. So they did a lot. It's a Bosch Power Tools in this case. That is going towards a RenDanHeYi. So even in German, with the work councils, with all the limitations that you can imagine, even with some cultural, let's say, resistances, as only Germany, it's possible, and actually it's happening. And as Boundaryless, we are just getting started with a big project with the company in Germany. So definitely this is happening. It's happening everywhere. It's happening in every part of the world and in every space. Another question, Sophia from Melbourne. Would anyone be able to share how performance is defined, assessed? I think here in this room, we have a least a couple of nice examples. So I will ask Andreas if he wants to jump in on this. They had a lot of thinking about triangles, let's say here, right? What does it mean?
From a company approach, so we define success for the organization as a combination of personal fulfillment, customer satisfaction, and company profitability, meaning that these are three things interrelated that we have to maximize in unison. We're not a successful company if we're able to maximize only one. And of course, this creates a sort of a feedback mechanism, right? Because if we spend too much time optimizing for customers and then we leave our staff to suffer, then that's not going to work, or vice versa. So that's how we do it on a company perspective. The approach we're taking right now is that every solution / micro enterprise that we spin off will have to take that same approach with them. And so success is the combination of those three things. What the next step is there, and this is, I was excited to see some of the new canvases in the toolkit actually, when it comes to ecosystem value, how to define that and how to capture that for each micro enterprise. That is something that we haven't touched yet. We're still thinking about the what we call the MAQE trifecta, which is the three things. But we know that the ecosystem value is the next important step in our development.
Thank you so much. I think Antonio as well may talk a lot about how to measure this, but I think I would like to proceed with some other questions and we can come back if we still have time. And by the way, this event is also, an excuse for you to connect to our friends here. So feel free, Antonio, I'm saying this on your behalf, to connect to Antonio, with Arianna, with Andreas. So we really believe that we need a community. That's why we create one, so to exchange ideas. Nobody has all the answers here. It's an ongoing journey. We are learning together. So feel free to reach out to me or to reach out to anybody in this conversation if you want to, get deeper. I just want to stress that this idea of complementing profit with the other metrics is really a pattern, is really a best practice in the market. If you look at what Zappos, that's another story. Zappos, it's in the US, it's not selling ovens and fridges, did exactly the same journey. They call it the market-based dynamics, but it's exactly the RenDanHeYi. And again, that's one of our conversations. They call it the triangle of accountability. So you have profit, but you also have one customer metric and you also have one employee metric. That's a way to balance, the pressure that employees have and to put together all the different stakeholders into the picture. Michelle was asking, many have jumped to the agile approach. What is limiting in that approach versus the RenDanHeYi? I don't see agile as limiting. Actually, the RenDanHeYi, not being really a model, something that you can impose, something that really specifies the last detail, can be combined with many other approaches. And just to be more precise, the RenDanHeYi doesn't tell you anything about what happens within the team. What it says is that you have leading targets, so there are some expectations, you have investments, you have a lead, but it says nothing about the rituals, the stand-up, the retrospective. So you could combine agile practices or rhythms with the RenDanHeYi. And some companies are doing it. Bosch is doing it. Or you could combine, as we do, sociocracy with the RenDanHeYi, because you want to include, content-based decision-making and purpose with the entrepreneurship of the RenDanHeYi. So my invitation, and what we have also put in the guide, is try to compare the different teal organizations, try to compare what is happening right now and to define your own recipe, probably as a combination experimentation of that. That's at least our own approach. Okay, I'll move on. Let's keep asking. Umberto Lago is asking, from what I heard, the RenDanHeYi is mostly used to launch new projects. Can you provide, I would like to know to what extent companies are ready to reinvent their business. Can we comment about that? I think, I don't know, Antonio, you can comment a lot about this.
Yeah, I'll be brief. So we're neither launching new products, not creating new companies. So we are reinventing our business model. We have reinvented our business model, and we have gone from a pure hardware company, a company who sold white boxes they put in the kitchen, and that we have evolved into a company that is more digital, that is software driven, that is also service driven. So the value creation journey is what takes you through new frontiers, and this is something that has been inspired by RenDanHeYi. So the experience with RenDanHeYi is what is giving us the confidence to say that this model, this approach, this philosophy, this way of life helps you to create new projects and businesses from ground zero, for profit and non-profit organization, unleashing that's energy, identifying opportunities, approaching and getting closer to people, and to be able to co-create value and develop solutions together, or to revamp very old company like ours. So it could work. What you need to follow is the key principles versus the step-by-step, because if you try to follow step-by-step, you might lose the context in which those steps were created, and therefore you ended up doing something that is not suitable for your business proposition, but it works.
Maybe Arianna, you can jump in as well. A part of the question was how to motivate, employees in a traditional company to embrace this.
This is just one of the aspects that moved us, that brought us just to rethink the organization, as we said, especially in the big organization, is something that it can happen because of there is always another one that can do what you don't want to do, and so maybe losing motivation is quite common. This is a way just to recover people motivation, people engagement, because if I think about an organization in which you are free to launch an idea that became a real new business, something new, something in which the company itself is investing, when you are responsible for these results, I cannot imagine a lack of motivation. You are of course aligned, and so thinking about this organization, I think that maybe, especially in the financial services, that maybe are facing also a lack of attractions in terms of new generation, talent expressions, and so on. Maybe I think that it's something to which we have to look at.
Thank you, Arianna. I think there's a question from Stephanie for everybody. So what's the percentage in your organizations that have already adopted, let's say, the RenDanHeYi? Is that, Stephanie, in a nutshell, the...
Exactly, just knowing not everyone wants that. Is there a place for those people that just are happy with their job coming 9 to 5?
That's a good question. I will ask the group to answer, but just keep in mind that Ayer, let's say, invited 10,000 managers during the transformation out of 80,000 people to find a new role within the organization. So the pure model, if you want, is quite entrepreneurial. So the ask is to act like Chairman John Grimin, former Chairman John Grimin said, every employee could be his or her own CEO. So, it's a very strong statement. Zappos, that is similar, for example, doesn't ask for it. You can be an entrepreneur or you can be a team member. Both of these, roles are incentivized and recognized. It's perfectly fine. So to me, it's not just about the model, it's also about the cultural aspects. But I want to hear from, Fabrizio, what is happening in Gummy? Is everybody a chef or part of a brigade?
Yes, everybody is a chef or part in a brigade. We are, as Antonio said before, we are the platform. We don't have a two-layer platform, but we have only one platform represented by us who help Kitchen grow. And yes, I think it's quite difficult at the starting, say to people in the company, okay, there are no roles, or you have a different roles, and it could be, yes, could be difficult, but I think when people understand the, yes, I think the huge plan, the huge vision that this model implement, I think people after the first time, maybe they were quite scary, but now after a month of work, I think they are happy. Oh, they they say it to me, to us, because I think the problem about yes, people is that one day you get up early and you say, okay, this is your freedom. You can decide your business, you can decide your product, you can decide your service, and also bonuses, from you and your micro enterprises. And I think freedom is totally a good thing, but you have to, I don't know, develop some knowledge about to use that freedom, because it's difficult to understand when pay yourself, when to set your economics, if you need or don't need goal, or so. I think this is the most important thing for us, and we focus. To say people, you don't have to be scary. Okay, we don't have more hierarchy, but starting from today, you have to decide about yourself, about your team, and you can really develop something new.
Yeah, that's something I think
yes,
I
please.
agree with Fabrizio, but it's I love Stephanie's question. So she's so thoughtful. Thank you for joining today's conversation. So the question behind the question is, will this work for everybody? And I would say yes. Yes, because the assumption that we're making is that companies shouldn't be created to constrain human potential. And I grew up in a business environment in which my potential has been constrained for years because I needed to follow rules. But it's not that I'm crazy, that I don't want to follow rules and I'm reckless. It is that I don't want anyone to think on my behalf. I want to be individual. I want to offer something. So when we go and apply for a job in any company, they torture you with interviews because they want to know who you are and what you do and how great you are. And then after you join the company, you become a badge and a number. And then you are thrown in a cubicle to crunch numbers. So there is a disconnect here, right? So what they offer, what companies offer, and the dream, and then the reality, which is very sad. I don't think anybody wants to live in the sad side of that story. That's one piece. The second piece is RenDanHeYi. So I don't want anyone to believe that those who live on the RenDanHeYi live in the world of hippies, that we walk around with hoodies and a smoking pot in the office because we're all entrepreneurs and we're aging. No, it's not that case. Okay, so we just value our freedom to speak up. That doesn't mean that we don't have rules. That doesn't mean that we don't have schedule. Yeah, there are certain teams that work from 9 to 6. That doesn't mean that they have a miserable life from 9 to 6. Because their work is more aligned to their passion, because they love what they do, because they know the value they are creating for themselves and for their users. So I think RenDanHeYi work for everybody. We just need to make sure that we understand what it offers. And it doesn't take anything away from your life. So it actually gives you the freedom to be yourself without invading others, right? It's just protecting the space for to be human beings.
Thank you so much. I think this is a really, you know, an explosion of energy that we all need. I love all my conversations with Antonio because I think you can feel the passion, yeah, it's a big transformation. I think we don't need to overemphasize this. It's not an easy transformation, but the why, and that's why we started from there. The why is really important at a social, economical, financial perspective today for everybody. So we have 4 minutes left. I would like to close with a final round with all our friends that join us today. So I will ask Antonio, Arianna, Fabrizio, and Andreas with your quick recommendation. So if I was the CEO of a company listening to this conversation, or just discovering this crazy RenDanHeYi, where to start? What's your suggestion to start to play with it, to apply it, even only to understand if this could work in my organization? Andreas.
Starting point, and this is because I made this mistake myself when I first started thinking about it. I initially envisioned MAQE as the ecosystem, and then unbundling the organization into MEs that would then become the ecosystem. But it was quite helpful actually to take a step back and say, hey, hang on, wait, maybe MAQE is just one of the MEs in the ecosystem. And then, you know, like there's actually more players out there, the boundaryless organization. So that was a bit of a mind shift for me, and that was quite helpful in taking a more outward-in point of view, as opposed to the inside out that comes very natural to me otherwise. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. I will add one for Andreas. Please take responsibility. Andreas is reading a lot and writing a lot. Feel free to follow him because he shares lots of great content. But it's a way for a CEO to take responsibility also for organization design. And many CEOs don't feel they have this responsibility. So thank you, Andreas, for it. Fabrizio, what's your recommendation? So you went from 0 to everything in a matter of months. What's the secret?
Well, I don't know if if we have a secret of a current recommendation. I just say that if you are a business like me, a small business, a small medium business, a digital agency, a digital startup, some companies that I know, okay, you have to try it, because in about around this dimension, I think that you can test, you can try, you have to change. We change every 2 or 3 years, so I love change. I love make changes, so I think that you have to try to thinking and planning to implement this model, and also as an exercise for you. And after when you try to design on paper your new model, your new organization, maybe you can also try to implement it. So I think that the secret is do it for me, doing it.
Thank you. Arianna, what's your suggestion?
Of course, I agree what Fabrizio told so far. So in general, I think that experimenting with new organizational model is not an easy or straightforward path, but it's full of curves and unforeseen things. But just to do something like this, maybe you need to explore, to be curious, to have an open and, as we say, the exploratory mindset. For us, it's as a bank, as a big bank, it was very important just to bring key skills to the table with these cross-functional working groups that we are building up. And I love the metaphor of practitioner that somebody told before. So I think that it's important to try, and then it's important, but then it's important to implement, to try to implement. So I think that maybe in a big reality, in a big organization, another key elements would be also to identify maybe a strong sponsor within the organization, because if top management is involved in this kind of approach, understand and share the needs, underline the transformation, maybe it would be easier just to go ahead to experiment.
Thank you. Antonio, the last recommendation from
well, I
itself.
would say that to do what we're doing here is to listen, because what worked for me will not work for you. And you need to go around the room and ask Andreas and Ariana and Fabrizio and many others in Bosch, in Zappos, in many organizations that are following things like this, and ask them, and you get to your own conclusion. Because yeah, I can tell you that we didn't go all in at day one, but then it took us 6 months to actually implement most of the elements, and it worked. Did we have a choice? Probably not. Did we take a risk? Yes, we took a risk, but we knew what we're doing, because we got the support of HiYi and we got the experts. So we got the direct contact to the creators of this. Can you replicate that situation? No, because that was 6 years ago. So things have changed so fast, and that this is such a complex process. And somebody asked, I think it was Sophia, who asked, how do you peel the onion? By starting peeling the onion little by little, because you are taking down walls that has been built years after years of power and protection and internal transactions. It's not an easy one. So therefore, ask questions, be curious, as Ariana was saying, and that you decide. Start small, start big. It is going to be your choice, but for sure, if because you are all smart, it's going to be an enjoyable process, and you're going to extract so many learnings here that for sure we're going to reconnect very soon.
Antonio, thanks so much and thanks to all of you for all the insights, all the questions, very valuable, all the perspectives. We are 2 minutes over, so thank you also for being here after 2 hours. That's not obvious at all. I'm just leaving in the chat the link for next session. So in 9 days, we are meeting again. That will be the opportunity to ask questions about the how. So not just what happening, who is doing it, but how to do it. And we will share it as really a conversation again. So consider joining us. It's free, as always, just take your seat. And thank you really for this great conversation. I hope it helped you, and just connect. So experiment, as everybody said, and connect. When you do that, we want to learn from you. We want to learn with you. Thanks so much. Have a nice day, a nice afternoon, or a nice evening, and see you in a bit more than 1 week.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.